Some of you just speak up for a second and actually remind me of who I was, because I don't think I was...
Somebody who you're not today. Yeah. But when you get to this stage in the process, you've got to ask yourselves, are you both compatible?
It's the hypocrisy for me. It's the audacity for me. For Peggy and George to sit there and pretend like they are all lovey-dovey when we saw them in last episode struggling and, you know, having this back and forth with Peggy saying, oh, I gave up my family for you. I left everything I know for you. And now suddenly she's this hopelessly in love. She's ready to move in with George. I will say this. Going home and seeing where George lives is what's changed it for her. If he had been living in a bedsit, or if he had been living in a tiny little sort of apartment or house sharing, she wouldn't be with him. She would have left him. The fact that she saw that there's money there is the reason why she's staying with him, and I will stick to that. Anyway, I digress. Hey there, thanks for stopping by. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. Click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Married at First Sight UK, Season 8, Episode 32. I don't even know where to start. Anyway, Jordan and Erica seem very good. They seem happy. Jordan is panicking, obviously, because of his OCD and the fact that the experiment is coming to an end. And he doesn't know what the future holds. I think that's his biggest worry. I think the fact that he does not know what the future holds with Erica, because they will be moving to 2 different parts of the country. This is his biggest concern. And also, will they work after the experiment? That's the impression that I get. But Erica says she'll stick by him. She seems very happy, so that's good for them. You have Adrian and Matt. It's, you know, Matt is still upset about, or he's still worried about the children's conversation. I don't know why they didn't finish that conversation. I don't know why the producers have decided to make it a thing for them now when it hasn't been a thing from the start, but we'll see how that plays out. And then Laura and Arthur. Arthur's just there to be there. He's just there, and I can see he's going to be trouble because he says he wants to enjoy himself, so let's see what he does. Ella, I have no idea why she's decided to change the color of her hair. The color of her hair is the least of her worries. It's her behavior that's her worry, and the way she acts when she's drunk. That's the biggest worry. So if I were her, I would be more focused on that, because this is why I was saying all along that Ella is very superficial. She's not looking to grow sort of as a person, or she's not looking for that, you know, how can I describe this? She's not looking for anything apart from the surface of what someone looks like. And, you know, do they have a banging body? Are they willing to have sex? Are they calling me beautiful? She's not looking to know the person as a whole. Who are they? What do they do? What do they like? What don't they like? How can they make me become the best version of myself? Or how can I help them become? No, she's not looking for that. She's only interested in the superficial, and that's how it's coming across to me. It might not be to everybody else, but to me. I'm going to need the producers tell me, do Tasha and Paul not have a production team? Why is it we barely get to see them when they're in their apartment? Is it because everything is smooth sailing and there's nothing dramatic for us to see? I don't get it, because the only time we've seen them in their apartment is when they had the fight and after the fight. That's it. Otherwise, we don't even see them. Don't they have their own production team? Make it make sense. Anyway, all the couples get ready for the dinner party, and they go off to the dinner party, final dinner party. I'm trying not to laugh. Anyway, so first to arrive is Jordan and Erica. They seem very happy. They seem to be in a good place. Jordan is emotional because obviously this is the final dinner party, and as I said before, he's not sure of what the future holds for them. Next up is Laura and Arthur, and it's like they've not got along with Jordan for most of the experiment, so I don't know why the producers felt it was a good idea to bring them in, but anyway, they had to bring somebody in. Next up is Adrian and Matt. They seem to be in a good place, and the experts are sort of saying, oh, it's good to see that they're in a good place, and it's like, did you not look when you're screening them whether they both would want children? Because this is where they are now stuck, and I don't know how they can overcome that, especially if they both really like one another. You're now setting them up for failure by not having addressed that. That's just my opinion. I think they should have discussed it in the commitment ceremony. That way they committed knowing fully well where they stand. And then in strolls in George and Peggy. You You know my opinion about Peggy. It's the audacity for me. It's the audacity for me because next up is Ella and JJ. And the audacity for Peggy to say, I don't want you to change anything about you just because of JJ. I can see you've changed your hair. And it's like, please, the hypocrisy. You've been trying to change George from the moment you found out he does gaming. And yet you have the audacity to say to Ella, don't change yourself. Make it make sense. Does that sort of compute in your head that you're telling someone else not to change themselves, but you want your husband to change everything that makes him who he is to suit what you and your family want him to be? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. I don't get that. Next up is Tasha and Paul. Tasha and Paul, I really like them. Everybody knows. And I'm just nervous because I saw a clip of, Tasha kicking off. So I hope it's not as bad as it appeared. Anyway, George decides to sort of get everyone to speak about the thing that they like the most in the experiment. And Tasha says she likes, meeting Paul for the first time, him turning around and her stopping. She became hysterical. She was a giggly high school kid because she was ecstatic that she had, been matched with someone who looked like Paul. And she said it. And so that's amazing. Next up is Arthur. Poor Arthur. Arthur. In his head, I think it made sense. Maybe this is what I've said, that the problem with Arthur is he was brought up in two different cultures. And so what might be funny in one culture is not funny in the other. So it makes it difficult for him to sort of communicate at times what he's trying to say, in the sense that in his head, he took it as a joke to say, oh, my happiest moment was when JJ walked in. And he thought everybody would laugh, but nobody laughed. And they looked at him like, what do you mean? And Laura is upset. And it's like, it's a joke, guys. It's a joke. Laugh out loud. It's the fact that, I don't even know, it's like a comedy sketch, but it's not. So you have George and Peggy sitting opposite Laura and Arthur, and they're having this conversation, and Peggy's sort of asking, so where are you guys? Have you thought about life in the real world? And this is something that Laura and Arthur have been very vague about. I think they have plans in place. I think it's either they know that they're not going to work, so they're going to separate, or they are going to move in, or they're going to move somewhere. But they've been told what to say to make it seem vague. That way, whatever decision they make on decision day, no one will know. And so for Peggy and George to make out like, oh, we're now in the same place, we want 2 children, Peggy wants at least 1, and it's like, make it make sense. When did we get to this conversation? At the dinner party, we were busy talking about the fact that Peggy sacrificed her relationship with her family for Arthur. When did we talk about the children? I remember us talking about it a while ago, and Peggy saying she wants as many children as she can get. So when did we go from that to suddenly saying, I want 1 and I want 2? Make it make sense. And so the fact that people are play acting their relationships and making it seem that their relationships are at a point where they're not, this is why Laura is having this sort of nervousness whereby she doesn't know whether she and Arthur will be best for each other. I think they will. I think they need to leave the experiment, they need to leave her friends and just spend time together in the real world, and they'll actually see that they work. George is just trying to stir the pot. That's the impression that I'm getting. He's just looking for a way to stir the pot, because I don't get why he asked that question knowing that Arthur has got no filter, he's got no censor. He's just going to open his mouth and the first thing that falls out is going to fall out, irregardless of how it lands and how everybody else feels. I wish they'd given him water and just, kept it in his mouth and just told him, we'll tell you when to spit and talk, because the way he's behaving, it's as though he's set on triggering or set on upsetting Laura. Because George asks, when was the last time you went on a date? I think he knows the answer. I think he knows. And I think he was just being petty, just for the sake of it, just to trigger Laura. Because then Arthur reveals that he went on a date, oh my God, 2 weeks before he got married. And it's like, well, 2 weeks, okay. Even if you didn't know you were getting married, you were still being considered for the experiment. So you would know that you're part of this experiment, and you'd know that you need to, maybe stop dating because you might get married. Because what if you meet someone and you catch feelings for them when you're about to get married, or when you're about to be told you're getting married? That didn't make sense. And everybody was taken aback. Laura was upset, I think, because she felt like she looked like a fool, because everybody was staring at her like, how dare you put up with all this nonsense. And it's like, what else can she do though? What else can she do? This is who he is. And there's nothing she can do about it, except just either choose to stay with him or leave him. And so it's sad. It's sad. And Arthur doesn't recognize this. And Paul is saying, oh, he's got poor emotional intelligence. He doesn't realize how things land. Yeah, I think that. And I don't know. I would like to think maybe it's his culture whereby people just say whatever they mean and mean whatever they say. Because I think he's Polish and I don't know. I would like to think so. But anyway, I might be wrong. I would like to know who set Laura and Arthur next opposite Peggy and George, because it's a bit rich for Peggy and George to be giving advice when we have all seen them for the past 8 weeks. Has it been 8 weeks? I don't even know. I know America's 8 weeks. It's a bit rich for them to be sort of trying to offer any sort of advice. I would rather it be Jordan giving advice than those two, because those two are play acting. I'm sorry, Peggy and George are play acting like their relationship is this amazing thing when we all know it's not. Anyway, and I understand where Laura is coming from, saying that it seems like at times Arthur doesn't pay attention, and so she barely gets to finish a sentence because he's already, saying whatever comes to his mind during that conversation, which I remember is something that she said before. And he said, well, I don't want to forget what I was thinking about. And it's like, well, if you're listening, you shouldn't be thinking about anything else except understanding what the other person is saying before you start coming up with an idea. Otherwise, you're listening to respond and you're not listening to hear. And so I don't know. It's sad I'm really sad for Laura. Even the experts recognize that she really wanted this to work. And it's sad that she was matched with someone who didn't really seem to be emotionally intelligent enough to cope with someone like Laura. That's my opinion. I know some people at the start were saying, oh, why didn't they match her with Thomas? I think Thomas was too good a guy for Laura. She would have chewed him up and spat him out before they even said I do. So I don't think she was the best person for him. So you have Tasha and Paul being asked by Adrian and Matt that, so are the two of you planning on moving down south? And Tasha's like, no, south is too intense for me. I wouldn't move down south. And sort of Paul says he's happy to move up to Manchester and Tasha's happy to move down to Manchester. So hopefully that will work for them for a bit before they decide on where to permanently settle once, they start having children and stuff. Because I would assume that Paul's family would want to see his children, especially his mother. So I think that's something that they would have to consider after a while. It seems they've already spoken about children. And so they then bring the question about children to Adrian and Matt. And it's sad that this is something that Adrian and Matt are not seeing eye to eye at the moment on. Watching Adrian and Matt have this conversation about children and watching the experts is both infuriating and very sad, in the sense that, does the mafs question not ask about children? Did they not ask these participants about whether they wanted children? Why would they match someone who wants children with someone who doesn't want children? But then again, in America, this is a reoccurring thing whereby they always match someone who doesn't want children with someone who wants children. And so it's a bit tricky. I think at the moment, Matt is so infatuated with Adrian and so enamored with her. And so he's losing sight of what he wants. And the fact that he's saying, we'll talk about it later, it's like, what will you say? You can't force her to have children. Are you saying you're going to ride this wave for as long as you can? And if, you get to a point whereby she says she purely doesn't want to have children, you're going to leave her then? What is it? Why not just break it off if this is a deal breaker for the two of you instead before somebody's hurt? I don't get that bit. I'm surprised they set Ella next to Jordan and Erica, given the fact that Erica and Jordan didn't have, anything positive to say about Ella. So there's this conversation about, them asking Ella, would you move down south? Would you move to London for JJ? And she's happy to move down. Well, at first she's a bit hesitant, and then I think she was waiting for him to say, yes, I want you to move in with me. And he kept quiet, and then she was asked, would you move to London, not to live with JJ, but just to move to London? And she said yes. JJ was not responsive. JJ, if you look up the word regret, you'll find his face plastered next to it. And somewhere on this magical I told you so mountain, Nathaniel is sitting and is drinking his glass of wine and is looking at JJ and is laughing his lungs out, because JJ has realized that in looking for someone that was very superficially what he wanted, he left an amazing person and is stuck with Ella. And I think he's not been happy and he regrets everything he's done. And sadly, he cannot break up with Ella, or he cannot say anything negative about Ella, because then people are going to call him out and say he's a trans hater and all. So he's stuck in this relationship until Ella calls it quits. And Ella doesn't want to call it quits because, she's enjoying being with him and she's waiting to have sex with him. That's the impression that I get. Jordan and Erica seem to be in a good place. They seem very happy. I think Jordan is in love with Erica because of the way he sort of blushed when he was asked, are you in love? I think he's in love with Erica. And with his OCD, he keeps going on about, I'm used to Erica, I'm this, that. And it's like, take a step back, see how you feel. And then if you still feel you're in love, then keep it moving. The producers are messy because I don't know why Tasha agreed to come up with this never have I ever game. I don't think she's the one who would want to come up with it because of the drama that comes with it. But I think the question Tasha asked was borderline messy, but just, harmless question. Because Tasha's question was, never have I had a thought to write leave at the commitment ceremony. And a couple of people took a sip. Erica was one of those. You had JJ and Ella take a sip. And you had Laura. And so you can see with his OCD, Jordan is already trying to process, why would she write leave? Or why would she debate even thinking of leaving me? And she had to explain to him, and it's like, oh God, this is not the time to explain to him because he's very wired. And I think at the same time she's trying to diffuse the situation before he starts sort of percolating it in his head and thinking about it and coming up with so many unnecessary or wrong answers. Adrian asks about fetishes, and obviously George has to say he likes being rimmed. I don't even know what rimmed means. I think I need to Google it at some point. I will. I just took Peggy and the sisters' advice not to, maybe I'm a prude, but I will look it up. And, everybody just laughs and everybody took it for what it was. And then it's asked, who would you snog, marry or pie that's not your partner? So Tasha says, I would kiss Arthur. I don't know why she went for Arthur. I think she thought maybe she had a better relationship with Laura, so it wouldn't be harmful, because otherwise if she had said George, Peggy would have taken it the wrong way. If she had said JJ, then Ella would have taken it the wrong way. Jordan, they're not in such good books, and I don't think they have such a close relationship with Matt, so it makes sense. And for him to say there's still time, it's like, it's a game. Yes, you think you're making a joke, but your joke is not it. And I get where Laura was coming from, and everybody could see was uncomfortable. I know I always defend him, but on this one I can't. I'm sorry, I can't really. I have nothing to say that can sort of hide that comment. I'm going to need someone to stop, either the experts or Peggy. Somebody needs to stop, because she asks, Arthur, the honesty box comes out and she asks, where do I rank in your priorities list? And what did you expect him to say? What did you expect him to say? Arthur, all he's done is try to re-amend everything and change everything about himself to suit Peggy. I don't know what he really likes about Peggy or the way Peggy has treated him that makes him want to be a shadow of himself. And all she wanted to hear was she was his priority. That's it. And he said, but I would never, give up my hobbies or my, he said hobbies or ambitions just because of a partner and stuff. And she went, no, it's not that. She just wants to be at the top of his list. She wants to be able to dictate what he does and what he wants. And for the experts to say, oh, he's mature. No. He should come to that decision on his own without having his hand forced into making that decision. It seems every time she has to force him into being the man she wants him to be and not allow him to naturally sort of become that man. So no, there's no growth there. Adrian and Matt, Adrian asks, is there anything you'd change about me? And Matt says, no, not really. At the moment, we are great. So there's nothing I would change. I think I would have, the experts expected him to bring up the question about children, or to say maybe I would change the fact that at this point you are not open to having children. That's what I expected him to say, but he didn't say that. So I give it to Jordan to say, don't just get along just for the sake of getting along. If you have an opinion, or if there's something you want to change or you want addressed, you need to bring it up. So I give him credit for that. And then Adrian asks, am I enough for you? And he went, absolutely. We all know he's infatuated with Adrian. And so for Arthur to say next, Arthur, somebody's spiked his drink or has, hyped him up, or something has happened that's annoyed him and is going to play a fool. Or maybe he's not really that into Laura and just wants her to say no on decision day. And so that's why he's being a jackass, because there's no explanation for how he's behaving. It's sad that Erica was asked this question, because she has to be mindful of everything she says, especially in a group, because people are going to chime in and give their opinions. And Jordan, as soon as he hears something negative or something that he doesn't agree with, he will stop, and that's what he'll be caught up in, and then she'll have to unravel all that. I think this is why she wanted to give a proper explanation of her reason why. And so I hope he's understood it and is taking it on board. Anyway, so Tasha and Paul, their question was tricky in the sense that it was meant to create drama. I don't know why the producers gave them that question. So they were asked who would last 5 years, and they said Peggy and Arthur. And for me, I don't get it. Given the fact that Peggy and Arthur are not as functional as they pretend to be, I think if nothing else, Adrian and Matt should have got the 5 years, because they will work for 5 years up until Matt wants children, and Adrian is still insistent that she doesn't want children. But hey, it is what it is. For 5 months, they said Adrian and Matt, which, okay. And then next, they gave it to Erica and Jordan for days, I think because of the fact that they like to stay together, and Jordan really is struggling with the fact that they might have to live apart for quite a period of time. For hours, they gave it to JJ and Ella, and that makes sense, because they don't seem to be on the right page. JJ just seems like he just wants to leave. And for minutes, they gave it to Laura and Arthur. And it is a matter of only, if not seconds, before Laura explodes, because Arthur is really on something today. He really keeps making some of the most sarcastic comments, and he's calling them jokes, but I don't think they're landing. I don't think everybody else is accepting them for what he says they are. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all drama between the two of them ends. So Tasha was asked, are you in love with me by Paul? And she is right, because she said, yes, I'm in love with you. I said this before, because things have been going so smoothly for Tasha and Paul. If everything was perfect, then we'd think they're play acting and they're pretending and they're not actually going through the process, or they're people that have been planted by the producers to give a positive edit. But it seems she is right to say she is falling in love with her husband. I think her sort of reading that letter out to her husband in the cinema was her declaration of love for Paul. I think she hasn't processed it, or she hasn't accepted that she's in love, but I feel like she's in love. And so for, Arthur to interrupt her, I give her credit for speaking up for herself. I know I saw some people on Twitter were complaining, oh, she's ready this. No, somebody had to call him out, because everybody just kept saying, Arthur, Arthur. Somebody had to address him to say, this is unacceptable. I've given you your chance to speak. You need to keep quiet and listen to me, because it's my turn to speak. There's nothing wrong with what she did. I don't see anything wrong with it. If she was wrong, I would have called her out, but there's nothing wrong. She wanted, to have a moment with her husband and express herself without somebody giving their, unsolicited opinion. I'm going to disagree with the experts, because the next question for Ella and JJ is, what would you like to be? What would you like me to change, to be the best version of myself for you? Or how would you like me to show up for you? And Ella is like, oh, I want you to be more open. I want you to, I know you're someone who's very reserved, so I want you to be more open. And it's like, well, for him to be open, you have to make him comfortable enough to want to open up. And the way you've behaved, it doesn't seem so, because he's telling you that when you're drunk, you're very derogatory. The way you behave, it's not the alcohol that is worried about. It's your behavior once you're intoxicated. So I don't get when they've both opened up. Nah, not really. I don't think so. I don't think people don't care for Ella. I think even Nathaniel cared for Ella. This is why he was very protective, and he would never say about her behavior once she was intoxicated. I think it's the fact that they care about her as a person, but I don't think they care about her in a romantic sense. This is the problem. This is the problem now, because I think JJ, when it comes to the romance aspect of their relationship, he's checked out. I think he's just there because this is someone he cares about, and he knows he's going to look like a fool because he left someone who was willing to put in the work, someone who was caring, someone who was patient, who was polite, and he ended up with someone who is very toxic. So I think that's why he's staying in this relationship. Lastly, it's Laura and Arthur. So she asks, what do you think I've changed in this process? And she has compromised. She has done the work. When she was told that you come across as belittling, patronizing, arrogant, she has tried to soften up for her husband. She has tried to show up for Arthur as the best version of herself. So you have to give her credit for that. And so for Arthur to say, I don't think I'll be able to, I wish she had said, I wish I had shown up the same way you showed up, but I will try to show up as the person you deserve in this relationship. And I somehow feel like the last dinner party was very defensive. He felt like everybody was attacking him. So this time he came with this I don't care attitude, and in his I don't care sort of attitude, he's come across as very rude and very disrespectful and very I don't care about his relationship. That's the opinion that I have, or that's the impression that I get from his behavior throughout this conversation. I don't know what he can do to change and be the best version of himself, because it's a pity that everybody has had to sit through this. I don't know how much more Laura can take, and it's sad that his lack of understanding of where he's going wrong, or his inability to self-reflect, is why he is where he is. And if his marriage breaks down, that's the reason why it will have broken down, because he lacks the ability to sort of receive constructive feedback and work on it. Because as soon as someone gives him constructive feedback, he sees it as an attack and he shuts down. So I have very little hope for them. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe, and click on the link in my video to watch my review of episode 31. Bye guys.